G'day, Blue Baggers, and welcome to Blues Footy Live. It is the third instalment of Blues Footy Live for 2021. It's your host, Jedd Zetzer here, alongside my co-host, Harrison Hymans. Bolt, another week. Welcome. We've got a big show tonight, don't we? I'm not even going to try and play it down.
No, it is a big show. You just almost get the sense like this is going to be a bit of a platform for venting. It's been a pretty heated week for Carlton. You know, we've lost the first two games, but it's just more, I guess, the disappointment again. So this is a big game for us. It's a winnable game. It's a game I called last week a non-negotiable. Well, this week is literally us on the canvas, really. We have to win.
It's crazy we've already got to that point where we're 3 weeks in and you're saying we're on the canvas.
Well, if you want to play finals, from here on in, you've got to go 12-8 from here on in. As in, and you can't be losing to a Fifeless Freo at Etihad.
Not only Fife, they've got Pearson, Hamling, and Logout. So their big three defenders are all out. Really, this is the day for HT kick 5, isn't it?
And it might be the day as well for Casbolt to find some form, because you assume Brennan Cox will get the McKay matchup. And then it leaves, very undersized Luke Ryan, Hayden Young, those Toby Watson. So they may go the three talls this week, but we'll touch on that a bit later, I suggest.
Absolutely. Now, we have to talk a little bit about the Collingwood match. Just very quickly, we were obviously both very disappointed. Do you think maybe the whole week, it's dragged on, hasn't it, the week? It's dragged on. A lot of doom and gloom. Do you think it's a bit of an overreaction?
No, because I think the fan base has finally, and give us your thoughts in the comments, but I think the fan base has finally come to the realization that these gallant, hard-fought 4-goal losses are just not, we can't accept them forever. You've got to move on and win eventually. We just don't win. So, no, I think the uproar has been very justified. I think it's a sense of frustration. It's a sense of expectation being there. And then, we just come back down to earth so quickly. As in, 5 goals down midway through the second quarter.
No, I know. It was, and another week, another 5-goal onslaught, wasn't it, where we conceded the 5 in a row?
It's very concerning. And I think we've said it before, but there are definitely flaws in the game plan on the defensive side of things, and it's not holding up. We've conceded 61 goals in the 4 competitive games we've played this year. So this is an opportunity to kind of right those wrongs. The next 2 weeks, really, we have to be 2-2, Freo and the Gold Coast. But this week, 1 week at a time, we have to win this week.
No, I agree. It's a good point that's been brought up here by Black Carrot. Freo want revenge this week. They've been rolled in the last 30 seconds the last 2 years straight. It's true. They're going to come out firing. I mean, absolutely, they're going to be saying, we're not letting this happen again.
Yep. 2 of the more epic wins against Fremantle away from home. And I guess the game against Freo that preceded that, they smashed us at Etihad. But, I think we've come a long way since that dark afternoon. So we'll see what happens. But Freo will be hungry, and Freo will see themselves as a sniff for the 8 as well. They're 1-1. They're pretty undermanned at the moment. And they'll see Carlton as very, very vulnerable as one of those away wins they need to get.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Good point brought up here by Alexander Led. He says Fremantle will kill us in the midfield, last for pressure in the comp, third for points against, big game this weekend. And he's right. We have to rectify that. Our midfield's been going almost in second gear. We need them to lift, and I agree. We can't get killed in the midfield this week. We just can't.
We can't. And the irony in Fremantle's midfield playing really well at the moment is Andrew Brayshaw and Adam Chera are almost leading the way. They're 2 top 10 picks from the 2017 national draft. So it can go, when you got the high picks like that, it can go either way. There's a clearly going in the right direction. But, and we saw Mundy last week turning back the clock. Their midfield's playing really good footy. Akers on a wing. So, and obviously, Fife's the big gap. But, Brayshaw, Chera, they're almost, the big dogs really in there.
No, I agree. But there's been a lot of. We're going to bring up a couple plays here, but I want to talk to you about the reaction from Lachie Plowman after the game. There's been a lot of talk about it, and a lot of people suggesting that he should probably get dropped. Are you of that belief, or you think that's been addressed internally? Move on.
I think when there's a game so as important as this week, you got to get your best 22 on the park. And for me, there's no one that could do a better job on Michael Walters when he's resting forward than Lachie Plowman. So I think it'd be a very rash decision. I just think it'd be a very reactive decision to drop Plowman. He played really well round one. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He was absolutely belted last week. But if we want to take our best 22 into a game where we need a win, we're playing Lachie Plowman.
No, I agree. Blue Baggers, any questions, any comments, comment below and we'll address as many as we possibly can. But what do we need to do this week to stop Fremantle's? We've spoken about the midfield, but what do we need to do to stop their forwards? Because they scored quite easily last week against GWS.
We just need... And look, they're not that tall down there. They're just dangerous on the ground. So it just needs to be team defense. I think this might be the week where we might get Jones to play a little bit more freely. I saw someone comment in the comments earlier about Josh Tracy potentially debuting this week.
Yeah.
The big bloke that was suspended in the waffle. So, and I'm sure they'll bring him in. You'd assume it'd be Wiedering straight to Taberner. Jones will either try and just float because he hasn't been great the first 2 weeks, Jones, but he'll probably get the Tracy matchup. But it's their little guys. And then there's the wrestling ruckman, obviously, between Darcy and Meek. Yeah, there's the comment. But obviously we've seen Schultz, Switkowski, they get Walters back. There's Frederick. So Travis Colliard, Giro. I'm not just saying they're great players. There's just a lot of them. And the Collingwood Smalls killed us last week. So he just needs to be complete team defense.
We need Williamson and Petrovski-Seedon to have better games, don't we?
Well, yeah, and I guess we can bring in the team, the predicted team changes. Do you think Williamson will be there to have an improved performance?
I do. I think structurally, he's only ever going to get replaced by a Newman or a Marchbank or potentially Parks. So if Parks is going to play, then he'd be the one going out for him, Williamson. But, I mean, what are your thoughts? Do you think he'll play?
I can't see any world where Tom Williamson keeps his spot after the last 2 weeks. I think Stocker will be the one that comes in, and I think Stocker will play that more defensive role that we saw him play in 2019. And it's not necessarily shut down. It's not, it's not going to be shut down because, let's be honest, Williamson hasn't been playing shut down either. I think Stocker is the easy change there for me. I just think Williamson just probably needs a bit of a run in the twos, really. He didn't really have one last year, so it might just be the reality check he needs, but his form hasn't been up to the standard we need it to be.
No, it's a fair call. So, I mean, we usually do this a little bit later in the show, but we may as well do it now. What are your predicted team changes to take on the Dockers?
Well, we know Jack Martin and Zach Fisher are out, which is obviously terrible, terrible losses because they are just two of our, if not, two of our cleanest players with really good goal sense. So they're massive losses, Fisher and Martin. I'm almost convincing myself Casbolt's going to play, even though his form almost doesn't warrant it. So I think Casbolt will play. I think Williamson will go out, and it'll be very interesting. But Dow's got to be close.
Yeah.
I get the sense they're going to play him. But I think, let's just say it's Martin, Fisher, Williamson that go out. We know, I think Silvani will play. I think Betts will play. And I'd play Stocker. I think there probably has to be, I think we almost got a fun room for McDonald. I think, we got to go the 3 talls on the fast that he had deck. And I can see there's a comment there from George about Murphy being out. I just think, Mark Murphy, I think there's, bigger worries than Murphy. I think we know Murphy. I think, it's his defensive side of the game that's been the issue. But what Murphy offers going forward with the ball is massive, in my opinion. I think Murphy's still a really good user of the footy. And I think, someone like Michael Gibbons, who I know has been hitting the scoreboard, so it's been really, really cool in that regard. He could easily have a game like Murphy's been having, you know?
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. The changes will be interesting. I'm not really sure. I guess the other issue is Cripps, as in, it looks like they're going to play him, but, they've said he's, being hampered by injury.
Should he be playing?
Well, probably not. Probably not. But I think Carlton is sensing it's almost desperation stations, is it not?
Well, I mean, let's be honest. If we were 2-0, would they be playing him?
I still think so. I think there's a lot of factors going into this. The fact that he's out of contract at the end of the year. So they're going to, and I guess it's working in the reverse. They're trying to make as if there's no injury. They want to get more games into him. But I'm not sure. It's very interesting. I think there's a lot of factors. I think there's a lot playing out behind the scenes. But they've said a 10-day break's going to help him this week, and we can only back them in. But, gee, it's a big game for him. He's clearly the biggest boy in the middle this week without Fife. With all due respect, they're three great midfielders, but Chera, Sarong, and Brayshaw shouldn't scare Cripps.
No, I agree. Comments.
I agree. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
No, I agree with it. I think I agree with it. I think it's, and I said it, look, for most of the week that I think it will be Casbolt going out. I just think Freo was so small, so it is something we can exploit. And we've said it, after the games. Once the ball hits the deck, Casbolt's out of the contest. Casbolt's irrelevant. And how long can we carry that for given the pace of the game? I don't think for too much longer. So I think I think that's probably the way they will go. And it's the way they opted to go round one with the two bigs and Silvani, and it works. Well, not necessarily. We look better with it.
Yeah, no, that's a question coming through Wise. And I haven't heard a heap.
I'll let you answer this one.
Yeah, I mean, last year, the talk of the town was Josh Honey, that he was performing so well in the Rezzies, and he eventually got that game. Didn't do a heap. I'd like to see him come in. I mean, if Martin and Fisher are out, we're going to be testing our depth in the forward half. And obviously, Silvani and Betts are the ones to come in, but Honey couldn't be that far off. What are your thoughts?
I guess his position as that third tall type of player, he's probably behind Silvani and Martin in that regard. And I guess they'd probably rather play Matt Kennedy as that midfield rotation who can play the third tall up forward. So I don't think Honey's really in the frame, to be honest.
That's fair. Maybe later in the year we'll see him, but he's still a very young prospect. So
has he even been playing reserves? Oh, there you go.
He's had a few niggles, yeah. Well, look, we're both
from
massive
the Godfather
fans.
Himself.
Yeah, if you'd heard our show last year, we're massive fans of him. We hope that he can get himself out on the park and hopefully get into the side. And this is a good comment that's come through. Kennedy kicks goals as a forward. I agree. I think Kennedy is probably the one I'd like to be seeing, especially if Silvani or Betts weren't fit to play this week.
Yeah, but once again, throwing Kennedy in the midfield, we become slow again. I don't know. I think if we're going to play Kennedy, it's as that third tall role. But he does kick goals. We saw at the back end of 2019, he kicked goals, as you know. But yeah.
Yeah. Look, a couple of people asking where David Cunningham is. Yep. Thoughts on this one? It's very interesting.
It is. As in, what did he play? 12 of the 17 games last year. I just think like he's had time. He's never going to play as a pure midfielder. I think we've got to get our heads around that. I don't think he's big enough. I don't think he's good enough, really. So in terms of the position that he's fighting for, he's probably at the back end of it, but he will get a crack at some point. But is it this week? Maybe on the fast deck. But I think they're happy to play Dow at the moment from the looks of it.
Yeah.
Whether that's right or wrong.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on Paddy Dow? I mean, you think he shouldn't keep his spot? How'd you rate his performance last week?
Well, I'm not a Paddy Dow cheerleader. I'll put it that way. But I think I still don't know Paddy Dow's role in the team. But for me, Paddy Dow, we're almost playing him off the back of blind faith a little bit. I just think there's issues with Dow, and I'd prefer Cunningham to play in that same position. I'm not sure what the listeners think, but I'd prefer to play Cunningham rather than Dow.
Yeah. Fast deck, Cottrell and Cunningham. Yeah, I mean, we've got to acknowledge as well, it is going to be a fast deck. And you mentioned, playing McDonald as the third tall. What are your thoughts here? I mean, Cottrell's pretty close to a game. Is he one that you'd consider bringing in?
Cottrell's not a horrible replacement for Williamson in that regard. But I don't know. Cottrell brings energy, not class. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, it's fair, but sometimes you need that.
I agree. I think it's maybe a little bit early to play Cottrell, in my opinion. But it's it's a weird one, Cottrell, because he can offer so much, but he can hurt you so much at the same time. He's a bit, I don't know. He's a weird one, Cottrell. I don't really have an opinion on him. I find him so hard to read. He played some really ordinary games last year. He played some games where he had 9 possessions, but I liked him.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I mean, he won us a game. I'm not complaining. Bowles, I want to talk very quickly about Jack Carroll, because there's been a lot of comments coming through, and we're hearing whispers. We're hearing whispers that he may debut. Thoughts on that? And, I mean, should he be coming in this early into the season, or would you like him to have a genuine VFL match under his belt before he comes in?
Probably, but you got to back him in. As in, I haven't seen these blokes, so I haven't seen Jack Carroll play, so it's hard for me to know. But from more reports, I think there was a VFL practice game a couple of weeks ago where he played really well. So I guess I'm happy for them to play him as long as they play him in the guts where he's meant to be playing. As in, I guess, the opposition that we're playing this week's a great example. Caleb Sarong was thrown straight into the guts. Andrew Brayshaw was thrown straight into the guts. And their development's been
in their position.
And their development's been rapid. As in, it's like if Carroll is this midfielder that we've drafted, don't play him in the back pocket. Don't play him next to Betts in a forward pocket. Play him, in the guts.
Mate, I couldn't agree more. That's why I get annoyed when people say, bring in, for example, Stocker playing the back line. He's not a defender. I'm sorry, he's just not a defender. And I know he's not playing a lockdown role, but Stocker, Carroll, these guys who are young players, what's the point in bringing them in and playing them out of their natural position? You can't really expect much from them, and that's going to help their development. I mean, you speak about Lockie O'Brien. He's an outside player. He was played as a defender for his first 2 or 3 years.
I think we've seen a bit of O'Brien on the wing, though.
No, we have now, but play them from the beginning. Look at Freo. As you mentioned, look at all the players that they've brought in and put straight into the guts, and it's paying dividends now.
So I can see the comment there from Ian Mond regarding why was Dow thrown straight into the guts, his development not so rapid. Well, and that's true. He was thrown straight into the guts, and there's a reason why. It's because he's not very good. Sometimes not every player is good, and it's a fault of the development in the club. I just don't think the kicking's an issue. I just think there's a lot of issues that we try to shrug under the carpet with Paddy Dow. I think you got to see it for what it is. He ain't a midfielder, and he's not up to it at the moment. And how much longer do we run with this? I'm not sure. But yeah, Carroll, it'll be interesting if they play Carroll. The other one, I think if there's going to be someone that gets back into the midfield before Carroll, it has to be Will Setterfield as well. He has to be in the middle. Yeah. He's the first one that has to get straight in. As in Will Setterfield not playing in the midfield, in my opinion, is a joke.
I agree. I'm just... Look, with Dow, you're right. We put him in there. He's proven.
Sometimes we just have to admit that these guys aren't very good. As in, not everyone's a good footballer. There's no issues with getting dud picks. Obviously, when they accumulate, it's an issue. But maybe Paddy Dow's just not very good. I don't know. I do know.
I can understand what you're saying, but I just think he's the only one that we've really just thrown into the middle for. We've only really seen him in the middle. I want to see the others just go into the middle.
Yeah. But Setterfield's the one. Setterfield, for me, was the biggest growth player in 2020, and I thought he had the biggest ceiling to reach for 2021. And the fact that Setterfield hasn't been playing in the middle and he's looked like a deer in headlights on the wing baffles me because I really like Setterfield. I'm a really big Setterfield fan, and they're doing him a complete injustice. They really are.
I agree. Setterfield was... Him and Williamson were our two most improved players last year. And, I mean, there's no real excuses for Williamson because his role hasn't changed. But Setterfield, they've just swapped his position back to where he was playing in his early days when he came to us and didn't have much of an impact.
The weird thing was as well that I know we do a best and fairest on the podcast where I think Setterfield finished 6th in the best LBNF. And I don't think he cracked the top 10 for the club best and fairest last year, which I remember raised our eyebrows at least. But it's just, I don't know what the issue with Setterfield is, but we're completely underutilising him.
He's a midfield bull. He's not a winger. Put him in the middle.
Get him in the guts. I just don't get it.
Daniel Jones at the comment here. It baffles me why we aren't playing Kennedy in the midfield. I swear he's in our best 22 and he shows a lot when he plays. Well, it's interesting because last year he certainly did show a lot when he played, and especially in the wet. I feel like every time he played in the wet, he was in our top 5 players on the ground. But I guess he's a lot slower, and it's hard to play him with Cripps, with Curnow. Last year with Setterfield and Murphy, there were probably too many of them, and he was, the beneficiary.
You can't play everyone. Yeah, you can't play more. It's too slow. It's 2-1 pace, and this is why we're getting belted on the rebound and teams score in so much space against us because there's not enough resistance coming back with the midfield. I think Kennedy, I agree, at least Kennedy offers a bit of versatility. I don't mind what Kennedy offers, but for me, it's a fill gap player, really.
Yeah.
We're not going to progress with Matt Kennedy getting a regular game.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. He's still pretty young. He'd be 23, 24, maybe, or am I maybe a bit older?
Yeah, probably something like that.
Yeah, that's fair. Bolt, so we went through our team changes. Predictions for this week. Blue Baggers, comment your predictions for the match. Who's going to win and by how much? And Bolt, give us your prediction.
Oh. It's the worst question you asked me during the week. I hate it because I don't tip. I do footy tipping outside, but God, I think we'll win. Oh, I saw the odds and Freo are at such juicy odds, but I think we'll win. We should. I think we'll win. The 5 being out is handy. We should be. I think we'll be right.
I hope we'll be right. I'm going to tip us by 25 points. I think we'll be one of those games where it's a little bit of an arm wrestle and we may run away with it a little bit towards the end of the game. There's been predictions coming through. Tell you what, this one's a brilliant one. Blues by point after the siren. We couldn't.
Who's kicking it? Who's going to kick the goal after the siren this time, though?
Yeah, we couldn't do it from 3 years in a row. That would just be mean. Who's going to kick the goal?
Oh, I'd be all for Jack Nunes going back to back. That would get me going.
Could you imagine? Imagine?
Oh, yeah. It'd be pretty funny. I think Gibbons will kick it. Well, Gibbons was meant to kick it last year, so maybe a bit of redemption for Gibbons. We should be winning. It's a game that if we think this isn't even if we think we're good enough to play finals. If we've improved, we'll win this game. There's actually no excuse. There's no excuse this week. And I don't want to even think about the fallout if we lose this week because it's going to be If you thought the fallout after Collingwood was nasty, you haven't seen anything yet. H to kick 15.
Mate,
Shit.
no Pierce, no Hamling, no Logue. In my opinion, well, actually, I'll give my pass mark. My pass mark's 4 goals. What's your pass mark for H?
I'm not going to say goals because who knows how he's kicking, but take 10 marks.
Okay.
Bruno, as in, he's been playing well, H. I thought, the fact that H played on Darcy Moore last week, probably got beaten going one way, but still managed 4 goals is an awesome effort and probably shows a bit of, inroads from his end.
No, I agree.
I don't think we would have got that performance last week from McKay in the past. I really don't.
No, that's fair. Blue Baggers, I want you to comment a pass mark for Harry McKay this week. How many goals does Big H need to kick for it to be a pass, considering their top 3 key defenders are all out? Who will he go on to, Bolt? Who actually will be the matchup for H?
Brennan Cox. Brennan Cox will take him.
Which, yeah, that's an interesting one. What are your thoughts there?
I don't know. I was just reading Baz's comment. What was the question? I got so distracted by that comment.
That's hilarious.
Maybe if we win, meet me outside Gate 5 at Etihad.
Yeah, if we win Gate 5 at Etihad.
What was your question?
It was, what can we expect from H on Brennan Cox?
Once again, it needs to be at, marks inside 50. We need to, because we isolated McKay a bit on Moore last week. So, when McKay works in space, because McKay's a big fella and so is Cox. But, we just got to get him in space, got to get him going. He has to be kicking goals. If you kick 4 last week, at least 4 again.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Very quickly, we can't end the show without talking about our midfield pressure and our tackling around the ground, because defensively, our pressure's been almost at an all-time low in the last week or two, especially against Collingwood. What do we need to do to improve that? Are there specific players who are letting us down in this area when it comes to pressure and tackling?
Probably everyone. I'm pretty sure Doherty's barely allowed to tackle this year. We know Murphy hasn't really tackled. It's a team thing. It's not even an individual thing. Whether it's Sard, becoming a bit more strict on the defense, Cripps got to run back. I know Walshy motors, but it's everyone. Ed Kerno, it's everyone. It's a team. Defense is a team sport.
No, that's fair. That's fair. This is an interesting comment. Too many players being played out of position. Do you agree with that? I
do. And I think this week's probably the first time the fans have started opening their eyes up to the standard of coaching. And the coach has come under a bit of heat this week for the first time in his career at Carlton. So, and my thoughts on Teague, isn't even stemming to last year. I thought the defensive side of the game plan was a bit shady. And I think it's getting exposed because there's now such a greater expectation to win.
No, I agree. I 100% agree with you. It's interesting. Blue Baggers, make sure you comment as well the predictions for this week, how much we'll win by or how much we will lose by. We want to know what your thoughts are. The general consensus in the last 2 weeks has sort of been everyone tipping Carlton. This week there's been a lot of Fremantle tips, which I'm not liking, Bolt, and it's getting me a little bit nervy.
Reverse psychology, my friend.
This is a fair point as well. You can't blame the coaches, fellas. This is on the players.
It is, and I'm not blaming the coach for. I'm not blaming the coach for player performance, but I think the game plan. We commit to far too many numbers forward, and this isn't just the first 2. And this. I've been harping on about this for 12 months. As in the defense, the ease in which we let teams score against us is outrageous. And when we score, there's no fluency to Carlton scores. Well, most of them, it's just like this long, arduous build-up. I just think, I don't know what it is. And the players are definitely fault. The players aren't playing well. There's no two ways about it. But it'll be very interesting. Is that right? We're the worst in the comp at contest. Well, there you go. And we've almost got an inside group of midfielders who are getting belted at the two statistics they got to be winning. So it sums it up, really.
Patrick Crook's not meant to be the best contested ball winner in the game.
Well, he has been previously.
Oh, it's going to be interesting. Bolt, we've run out of time, but tell you what, this was a jam-packed show. We had a lot to get through, and I love the interaction with everyone commenting. So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in to this week's edition of Blues Footy Live. It's going to be very interesting, to say the least, this week. If you're at the footy this week, Bolt, what gate are we sitting at? We'll come say hello.
Yeah, I'm behind the bench in the AFL, man. I'm behind the bench somewhere on that wing.
I think I'm somewhere in the Carlton members. So if you bump into us around the grounds, definitely come say hello and we'll have a quick chat. But that's all we have time for this week. Very big game on the weekend. A must win if you've ever seen one. Bolt, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
You don't message me on Sunday if we lose. That's all I'm saying.
Trust me, don't do it. He won't be a happy man. Blue Baggers, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's edition of Blues Footy Live. We'll be back to do it all again next week. We hope you enjoyed the show.
You beauty. We'll see you next week.